Number 1. I am from a big family of 8 children. We lived in a 3-bedroom house, so over time there was lots of bedroom sharing and changing. For a couple of years I slept alone in the smallest bedroom, aka the box room. During my time there, I often awoke during the night to hear a light ticking noise coming from the other side of the room. But whenever I opened my eyes, it would stop. I passed it off as some kind of weird recurring dream based on this. Usually, when I'd wake up, I'd be lying on my left-hand side, facing the source direction of the noise. But one night, however, circumstances were different. I woke, eyes closed, to the same noise again, and thought to myself, okay, it stops when I open my eyes. So I did that. But this time, I found myself lying on my right side, facing away from the source. And for the first time, the noise continued while my eyes were open. I turned onto my back, facing the ceiling. The noise continued. I sat up, facing the end of the bed, rubbed my eyes to make sure I was actually awake. The noise continued. I quickly jerked my head to the left, towards the source, and the noise instantly stopped. I talked to 2 of my sisters about it a while later, both of whom had previously slept in that room on different occasions, and they each said that they too had heard it and described it the same as me. Number 2. Then I was 16. My grandmother took really ill. She was 95, so I quit my studies to look after her. My parents died when I was very young. I don't remember them. It was always me, my brother, and my grandmother, sitting up late in hospital one night, talking. I told her I was afraid if she died, because I'd be on my own. She was my best friend. She held my hand, and we made a promise to each other that whoever died first would come back to let the other know they were fine. 2 months later, my grandmother died. After a few months, I eventually gave up my grandmother coming back to reassure me. A friend of my brother was in his house with us, and she had just bought a new mobile phone. Not knowing how to work it, she handed it straight to me to set it up for her. As I was fiddling with the menu, a call came through. I recognised the number and answered it. Nothing but dead air. Hanging up, it took me a couple of seconds to realise that the phone shouldn't have rang. No one had the number. I'd just taken it out of the box. It started ringing again. The number was my grandmother's number. Her phone was disconnected a few weeks before she died. I believe it was my grandmother fulfilling her promise. A few months ago, I was watching a program about haunted hotels. There was a story about a little girl whose mother abandoned her at the hotel in the early 1900s. The little girl drowned in a stream, or something, outside the hotel, and her ghost is said to appear to women staying in the hotel. People who have seen her have said she calls them Mummy. That night, and for a few weeks after, I kept having dreams about this little girl. She was screaming for me, calling me Mummy, but I couldn't reach her. A few weeks later, I was ill and went to my doctor. He told me I was pregnant. I have a medical condition where I supposedly can't have children. I'm 5 months pregnant as I write this. Me and my baby are doing great, though my doctor is stumped. Number 3. I'm a 13-year-old boy and I live in Ireland. I'm going to tell you some facts before I tell you what my story is. My grandmother had died 6 years before the story happened, and she always loved my mother very much. It might have been our imaginations, as it was really early, 6 a.m. I've never been good at writing, so please let me know if I have made a mistake. It happened a couple of years ago, so I might forget some minor details. Everything that I tell you is real, so here I go. It was the morning of my confirmation. Me and my mum were about to brush our teeth in the bathroom. It was a normal day. Nothing had happened so far, but a nice thing was about to happen. When my mum opened the cabinet to get the toothpaste, she and I both saw my grandmother's wedding ring fall out. It was precious to us, so we bent down to get it quickly, and another thing fell out. It was a perfume saying happiness on the bottle. Me and my mother both looked at each other and went to pick them up. As we did, a lovely scent of lavender filled the house, as my brothers could smell it downstairs. This same smell was my grandmother's funeral. Me and my mum were both pleased by this, and happy. Was this just a little message from her to say, I'm still here? Or was it just a message saying that she was happy about me taking my confirmation? I will never know. Number 4. I work in a cinema in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and this is my first entry. This account is 100% true. I was coming into work for my morning cleaning shift. Every night, the supervisor sets the alarm, so every morning when I come in, I set it off and have to silence it with my own code. This particular morning, I came in, the lights were out as usual. I went for the door, but the alarm never went off. I found this strange, but I continued turning on the lights. When I was finished opening the office area, I left the cinema and ran across the shopping mall to get a coffee. When I came back, I realised that the light was out. I opened the door and the alarm went off, almost giving me a heart attack. I keyed in my code and began trying to work out what happened. I was the only one in that day until 6 p.m, and no one else had access to the office area. I also talked to staff later that night, and no one was in that day. I may have missed. 1 year later, and I am now a supervisor in a cinema. About a week ago, I was chatting to the security guards, who told me that before this site was a shopping mall, it was a Lucozade factory. One of the guards back then was shot dead. Also, they said that I was not the only one who has had an unexplained experience in the mall, apparently. A pound stretcher worker stocked up their shelves for Christmas one year, only to come in the next morning to find all the bottom shelf items neatly rolled on the floor. Number 5. One night, me and my mum were talking about ghosts, and whether or not she believes in them. She told me this story years and years ago when I was very little. My mum and dad didn't get on very well, mostly because his mother didn't approve of her. One day, my mum couldn't find my father anywhere, so she went over to his mother and said angrily, "He's gone away from you, for good, and that's all I have to say to you," and she slammed the door in my mum's face. Weeks passed, and my mum was in despair. She said that her and her own mother were best friends, and at the time, she wished her mother had been there to help her through this situation. But both her father and mother had died about 5 years at that time. One night, she had a dream she was walking down a landway, the one to her childhood house, and she said her mother was at the end of the lane. Her mother spoke to her and said, "Don't worry about anything. He's just gone away on sea, but he will be back shortly. Don't worry about the kids." She woke up, and on that day, my dad came knocking on the door. He then told my mum where he had been. "I was in London with my brothers," he said. Of course, there was no particular reason why he should have gone. I think he was seeing another woman. Well, at least I think that's what my mother thought. And to this day, My mum remembers that dream she had. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.